We are tonight's entertainment.
You can't handle the truth.
The fire rises.
Pizza time.
You're a wizard, Harry.
So it begins.
You know how much I sacrifice?
You think that's air you're breathing?
Groovy.
I don't have friends. I got family.
We are Sex People! 1, 2, 3, 4!
Craft Services.
Hey, Trent.
Hi, Parth.
It's good to see you.
You too. You're looking well.
You're looking in a state of leisure.
Yes. For the first time ever, I have the microphone in my lap. And
Hey, Daddy Gang.
And I'm leaned back on the couch, and we're joking that it's like Call Her Daddy. And it's pretty fun and pretty relaxing. Because you have a nice microphone, like, stand arm that extends right up to your mouth. But I have to sort of, like, perch forward on the couch. But now I'm really, really relaxed.
Is part of your state of relaxation, like, being full? Like, have you eaten anything recently?
If you can even believe it, that's not a part of my state of relaxation,
Wow.
specifically because we just did a big interview,
We did.
say. And before the
Months
interview...
coming.
Yes, and one of my personal heroes, that's all we'll tease, and so won't come out this week, but in a few weeks, that'll be coming out, and that's really exciting. I was a bit nervous, so was Parth, and so I made some dumplings, and then I was like, what happens every time I eat a big meal? I get sleepy. So I just had a few, enough to get by, and then I was still not feeling great, and then I was like, what makes your brain feel good? Some fruit. So I ate a mango that I got from the street. What about you? And then we did the great big interview with one of my personal heroes, and that went pretty well, and now here we are.
It's interesting that you brought up the stress factor because we were saying before the interview how I've noticed that when I get more stressed out, I become more sleepy because I think my body is just tired from being stressed. But then that makes me more stressed because then I become anxious that when the time comes for me to have to perform, I will be too sleepy too. But thankfully, I think that didn't occur. And don't laugh at my use of the word perform.
What have you been eating, though?
Well, Trent, right after the call ended, as longtime listeners will know, after Trent and I do an interview, we're sweaty, we're feeling cold, we're feeling weird, where our legs are hurting, like our bodies are feeling strange ways, and I knew that I was going to need a snack if we had to record again, because sometimes I like to just lay in my bed and rot for 20 to 30 minutes, but I knew I needed some nourishment if we were going to have to record again. So I just finished producing a short that shot last week, and because I'm in production, it means that all the leftover crafty comes home with me because it's all just sitting in my car and no one wants to take it home. So I have all this stuff, and one of the things that I have are these protein bars from Costco, Kirkland brand. They're like granola bars with dark chocolate, peanut butter, and something else. And it tastes pretty good. But it's interesting that you mentioned wontons because after this, I'm going to have dinner. And I was foraging through my fridge and my freezer, and I saw that we had chicken and vegetable wontons, which I'm 100% going to heat up and eat.
Parth, for the first time ever, well, it's not that we've eaten the same exact thing. I wonder if that's happened at any point.
That's happened a few times, at least, where we were hanging out and then recorded, at least.
Yeah, but that's a cheat.
Yeah, that doesn't really count.
I wonder if it's ever happened where it's completely separately and it wasn't like water and or nothing.
Do like Pop-Tarts count or something? I'm sure we've had like a similar.
Well, I don't eat
standard.
I only eat Pop-Tarts on your soil.
Okay, fair enough.
But for the first time ever, we're about to go eat the same thing because I have chicken and vegetable wontons
That's
waiting
true.
for me.
That's definitely a first.
Just one room over. Just counting the seconds until this intro is done. And to help the chicken wontons be put out of their misery, I'm just going to cue the intro.
Just do it and cue it, Trent.
Welcome back to Craft Services, where we talk about the movies. Each week we talk about a film and hopefully have a crew member of that film where we talk about their experience working on the picture. This week, part 2, production designer, Elliott Hostetter. Parth?
It's true.
Parth, what are your thoughts on all that?
Trent, I have very positive thoughts towards all of that. You were unfortunately unable to make the last outro for part 1, but you've graced us with your presence for part 2, which I'm very happy about because I don't know about you, but I'm a fan of this interview.
I'm a fan of this interview. I'm a fan of Eddington. I love all of Ari Aster's movies. I want to see it a second time. Call me crazy.
You're crazy, but not for that.
Yeah, for other reasons. But Parth, me not being in the last intro is bad for, like, presumably all the listeners, but it's fun for one person. And it's me when I get to listen to the intro of just you.
It's
my
true.
friend Parth. Just introducing our podcast, and it's like I don't have a memory of that because I wasn't there.
And every time that I do it, I am like, oh, this kind of sucks. Like, I really don't like this. It's always preferable to have you here with me. But what I also find preferable, you know, as much as I like you, it's nice to have a third just to, like, you know, bounce ideas across from. And again, our interview guest today is Elliott Hostetter, production designer for Eddington. He was super cool. This is part 2. Gets into some more specific sets, specific scenes.
Wait, Parth, I'm forgetting. Wasn't the interview really cool and, like, really fun and, like, really informative? And, like, given all that, we should just freaking do it and cue it, my man.
Let's cue the interview. I'd like to get into some sort of specific sets. Can you talk a bit about making Joaquin Phoenix's house? And you sort of have to make 2 because it gets an upgrade, I guess, towards the end.
Yeah, I think that was a really tough location for the crew, and I felt bad the whole time because, you know, it's a really tricky type of place to work. Again, like, I'm looking at there's so many different scenes that take place there. The first decisions were kind of around the ending of the film, and, you know, when the shootout starts and Joe's running into town, like, how to connect the house to the town and to the desert locations. Those were the things that really guided the look of the outside of the house. And I loved it sitting on top of this cliff, so Joaquin could, like, stumble down this cliff when he's getting shot down. All that, this sort of little weird house isolated on a hillside was, like, such an iconic image that we got to be able to make. So then you find the house you sort of want, and then there's these other kind of, like, contradictions in what we need from the space, you know? There's nowhere to go in the house. It's overcrowded. There's nowhere for Joe to escape, and there's this kind of claustrophobic feeling of him, like, dominated by Dawn, and no one being able to escape each other in the pandemic. And we just talked about creating that a lot. So we needed a really small place that could also somehow fit a film crew, and it just, like, has to check all these little boxes, you know. When it comes to designing it, it's to try to make a place that feels like COVID era when people were stuck with each other. Dawn has brought her whole house and moved in all her shit into a place that there was already no room for it. So it was all this sort of, like, trying to create this feeling of a place that would help to push Joe to where he goes in the film. You know, like, it adds to his breakdown, I think.
Talking about some of, like, the access points in the police station, you mentioned sort of, like, not prioritizing, like, the reality of how that might actually be, and instead making more of what the movie's priorities are. Is there any other examples in the design being like, this wouldn't actually be like this, but this is what we're doing because it's cool?
I mean, I try to be really true as much as possible and then deviate when necessary. Where else in the movie would it be, like, a good example of that? The end just goes into, like, it's surreal enough that it can hold any kind of anything. Earlier on, when we're kind of in reality, I mean, I think we tried to make it pretty real. There were some things, like, you know, we had Joe driving down the wrong way on a one-way street. I needed Ari to be able to say, it's okay. We're just going to put in a line about how he's driving. Somebody saying, hey, you're driving the wrong way. And then we solve that, you know, like, there's some things like that where that's how we get past the faking it. The gun shop is getting into the gun shop was this really big puzzle, actually, you know, because we couldn't make it easy on Joaquin. And, like, what gun shop is he going to be able to break into? Like, they always have steel bars over the thing. but we knew the scene needed to move really fast. It was like the climax. We couldn't like slow down and have this moment. So it really took Joaquin, like we were just really puzzling it over all together, and Joaquin like saying, no, I'm going to do it this way. Like, cause to get past the point of like, we were stuck on the physics of the thing and how not to make it boring and real, until Joaquin was like, I'm just going to kick the shit out of it and just jump in there. It allows the craziness of coming out with that gun to work.
I love that gun. It's so much bigger than you expect it to be.
I don't think it was anywhere as big as Ari wanted it.
You mentioned Joe's car. Can you talk about designing that? Because it's sort of just perfectly stupid and
It's
like
so
garish.
stupid. It came from this specific movie where it was nonfiction. This guy who kind of drove around this town with an agenda with his car. Also Nashville. You can see it in Nashville very much. So Ari had, like a real specific idea in his mind. And we just, he came up with all the slogans. Again, I'm just sort of drawing it out from him. Maybe I added one or two, but I think they pretty much all came from him. And then I added the weird tinsel and the dumb, like, way that it was made, like he would present these impossible challenges of like, okay, now we need to make a speaker box on the top, but it has to come off at some point in the movie. And, like all these kind of difficult puzzle pieces that then we make it into this stupid thing.
What's the slogan with the wrong "your"? It made me laugh out loud.
You're being manipulated.
Yes, that's so funny.
Yeah, like that was probably Guy who printed that out. I don't know, like it was so classic. And the prop team had to put the streamers on and the magnets. It was such an ordeal shooting with that thing, going on and off and on and off, but it was worth it.
How long was the shoot all in all?
Those are the kind of things that I sort of quickly forget. 40-something days, maybe 48, but I don't know exactly.
Without giving away too much, there are scenes in this movie that involve guns and explosions and stuff. How does that factor into your production design?
I mean, it's a big part of it. When you have to like shoot tons of guns in the middle of a small town, like for nights at a time. Some places you're going to be able to pull that off and some you're not, There's also specifics like when he shoots the gun in the bar, like we really had to design that bar in a particular way for just the distance that they stand, the way that the bullet hits the bar and gets pulled out. All of those details are like have to be taken into consideration. And they change as the way that Joaquin came into that bar with the gun in the end. I'm going to try not to spoil too much of the plot, but what we read in the script was not what we ended up shooting. That was like, again, it changed as we're going. So your sort of design changes as the concept changes. Yeah, you have to be pretty specific about what's going to get shot, and how it all plays out. Yeah, and where they're firing from, the hillside helped us so much in that. It's just like a billion decisions.
Can you talk about like, is CG playing any part in your designs where it's like, this does not work geographically, so we're going to have to utilize that in some way, or we need to extend this in some way? Was that playing a part at all in this?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the water tower is a great help to be able to put the water tower on top of the hill at Joe's house. Joe's house is not really on the other side of the hill there, So there are a few times when, we try to be judicious about it, but it's super helpful.
There were just a lot of like extended shots that go on for a minute or two. How does that affect, if at all, your design?
I'm trying to build as much freedom into the sets as possible for the director and for the actors so that they're not limited by the physical space, so that they can, if that scene needs to go on for 10 minutes, it can. Some directors can be very precise and tell you exactly what they want. And Ari is actually very precise. But even so, it's sort of like giving the film crew as much freedom to cook as they can, you know.
Yeah, so you mentioned the shootout a little bit earlier, and without getting too into specifics, there's some destruction that happens sort of over the course of the movie, but especially towards the end of the movie. Can you talk about building things that are meant to just sort of be destroyed or be damaged, and like what that challenges and exciting things about that?
I mean, for instance, falling into the museum, that was a challenge, you know. So we had.
How practical is that? Is that he's actually going through, or like what's going on there?
That was a hard one because we that was a good one. My art director Matt Gatlin, he really saved the day on that one. I feel like, because we couldn't send them through the real roof, but we couldn't be far away from the real. We were still constrained by reality so much, so we had to build a little section of roof behind the building. There was a very narrow alley where the part that he fell through, we added on to the real museum, but he fell into nothing there. And then we had to go into the real museum and basically replicate a room that I liked. And there was no room in the ceiling to really put him. So we didn't have very much room to send him down. So the camera helped us out a lot. And so we picked him up on the other side, falling through. But it was a funny and fun design challenge. I don't know if the joke conveyed or not in there, but he falls on Geronimo's bones. I don't know if you see that. It's Geronimo. So there's a little plaque that says it, but I feel like we didn't dial it in all the way, but there's, just that Joe is decimating a sacred native thing is part of it. And also Geronimo as he falls is sort of a funny joke. But, it's fun, like just making the bones and the case for that and thinking about how can we make it the most impactful. Those are fun choices to make.
Does the data center exist in any real space, or is that CG entirely?
As far as I know, it's not real. No, it's not real. It's the front of it, when they're at the data center and doing the ribbon cutting ceremony, that was a real building that we CG helped us to modify. Obviously, when at the ending and everything, when you see it out, that's all visual effects.
Is there a set or a build in the totality of the movie that was either the hardest thing to put together or the thing that you're the most proud of? Like, wow, I got that done, in retrospect.
The overall town as a one whole cohesive set was a pretty great. That's like the most fun part for me. And then beyond that, I think I loved the bar. And you really, it's only in the movie a little bit, so maybe we overdid it for what we see on screen. But we painted a mural in the bar that's the history of the town. I made all this story in the bar, and it's a kind of this manifest destiny story of the town. And we would go and have drinks in that bar. It's crew, afterwards. I love to be in there. The jukebox worked. It was really a fun place. Hopefully they open it someday as a real bar. Also, the sheriff's office I just thought was the perfect set.
Besides for masks, obviously, is there any COVID era stuff you tried to incorporate?
I had a lot of ivermectin on the shelves at Joe's house. We tried to do all over that house was full of so much stuff that you could never. It's so dense that you kind of can't really make it out, but there's so many things in that set. Also, there's the weird little things like the arrows on the floor at the grocery store, for instance. Those kind of really annoying details that you never want to think about again. And I love doing the COVID signage, like the Dr. Fauci, shut down by Dr. Fauci. When we had that on the windows of the real town and people started to drive by and honk and it was okay, we're really doing this now, People, the cat's out of the bag. People start to see what we're doing.
I don't think we talked about it yet, but the supermarket, I assume, was a real supermarket. Was there any additional work or was it pretty what it needed to be?
It was pretty much what it needed to be. I thought it was a beautiful supermarket. It was called Bullock's, and it's like the supermarket. I lived a block away from Bullock's, and it was a really charming and realistic feeling small town grocery. So I kind of loved it. Those kind of locations it's really difficult. They couldn't really shut down at all for us because their customers are so loyal. They need somewhere to shop. So it's more like we were limited in what we were able to do because we could only work certain hours kind of thing. And they really were super helpful and worked with us, but I didn't do a whole lot besides like a little bit of signage changing and, a couple of little things here.
It takes place in the Southwest, which obviously has a very unique, like, mountainous landscape. Are you zhuzhing up the exterior stuff, or is nature just sort of nature?
In this case, mostly nature was nature, but like Ted's house was like an abandoned house and it was really wild and overgrown, and like, so we had to do a lot of work on the nature to sort of make it possible for the party to happen there, to make it look like this kind of like Ted's character could live there. So we did a lot of work around that. So a lot of times it's sort of practical that way. Joe's house, I did a decent amount of work around there, and we made like the big cactus pile for the car to drive into. We do little things here and there, but it wasn't like a major change to nature. It's more like obscuring things here and there, just finding the best parts to feature.
As we sort of start to wrap up, is there, in looking back, like a takeaway that you have from working on this movie that you would maybe going into other movies you would take with you?
I think there's so many, like making any movie is such an epic experience. I feel like it always changes everyone changes your perspective. For this, it's really like the main takeaway for me is like being able to it was a great collaboration all across the board for me, like having people that you work with that you fully trust and that you can solve all the problems with together and that have passion. That's what I want every time. And that's what makes it a fun job,
Yeah, you mentioned the surrealism of the end of the movie. Were you thinking about your design differently?
Yeah, like I was a little bit fearful of the gun shop from the beginning because it becomes a little outlandish. I didn't want people to be like laughing at that standing alone. I wanted them to be paying attention to the actors. And it is it sort of stands out. So I was a little nervous about that and the reality around that. But I think once I got it and once I really accepted how the movie shifted, it gave me a lot of freedom to be able to embrace the kind of the crazier part. So it did shift my sort of like thinking around the design then. Yeah, it's good. It does change the approach.
Trent, do you have any more Eddington related questions you want to ask?
Parth, I'm in your hands.
I just wanted to ask about one other movie really quickly before we let you go, which is Spring Breakers, which I caught for the first time in the IMAX re-release and was sort of taken aback and sort of blown away by it. If you could just, I don't know, briefly talk about working on that movie.
Yeah, I mean, it still stands out as one of my best film experiences, and I've been doing this my whole life. It was such I don't know, like I think if you haven't seen Spring Breakers, then you sort of don't know what it is. I feel like it's a really tricky movie. When we made it, it felt like a pop culture experiment. It was a real cultural, we were fucking with the culture on that one. Like you think it's going to be one thing by the title or by the trailer or something, and it's something else entirely. And I think just Harmony is in such a lane of his own as far as his understanding of the medium and his like where he pushes it to. It's just such a fun and liberating experience. It was so hard and so fun. I think I could talk about it forever. It was very small budget. We didn't have anything we needed, but we found our way to making this really wild and crazy ride. And it really feels like when you're doing those things that you're making movies with friends, and you're doing something completely new in the world. That sort of energy stays with you, and sort of like, that's what I want from my career always, to be able to have those kind of experiences that make it feel like, we're not limited by what films have been. And to me, that movie's really groundbreaking in a lot of ways. And those are the kind of things that make your life worth it.
As we wrap up, do you have any movies you're prepping or at the liberty to say you're working on in the near future?
I've just started a movie. I don't know what I'm at liberty to say or not. Jonah Hill is directing it. It's his new movie, and it's going to be a lot of fun.
Cool. Parth, the Big Kahuna.
It's the Big Kahuna final question. So, Big Kahuna final question is just, what is the last great movie you watched? And it can be a rewatch or a first-time watch, but it has to be great.
Well, I watched Jaws last night with my daughter for the first time. So
wow,
that's easy, right?
50 years.
Yeah, 50 years. Man, it's so wild. I hadn't watched it in a long time either. And it's like, just my daughter, she's 11. She was noticing it too, like the kind of the overlap of the dialogue and that alt-esque kind of feeling to all of that, and the way that it's just so radical. And so you don't see that anymore. It's so great. Maybe the last great film I can feel like I saw in the theaters that really just made me care was Zone of Interest, maybe.
Sure.
I think so. Just, again, like a master, making something really meaningful, really looking at the human condition in a very serious way, and doing it in this very, unique, unexpected point of view. That's like the goal.
Well, thanks so much to Elliott Hostetter. He's the production designer behind such cool films like Spring Breakers, The Neon Demon, Bones and All, and our film for today, Ari Aster's Eddington. Go see it on as big a screen as you can. It's out now. Thanks so much for being here. With your friends.
Yes, definitely.
Bring all the people you can. Thank you, guys. Thanks so much. Great to talk with you.
Wow. What an interview.
Parth, I don't even know what to say. We're going to have to make it up as we go. Usually, every word of this podcast is pre-scripted. I'm going off book, man.
Wow, every word. It's true. That's why we're so eloquent.
All the uhs and ahs.
Well, Trent, I take care of that in the edit. You're looking so... How would you say you're enjoying your setup right now? Do you think this is going to continue into future recordings?
I don't know. I feel like it might be specific to the intros and outros, because that's more
I think that's what I would prefer you didn't look like this while we were interviewing, like an actually important person.
Professional people.
But if it's just me, that's fine.
Yeah, the mic stand fits into my lap like pretty nicely. And I think in my mind, getting unplugged would have been more of a fear, but I think like something crazy would have to happen, or for me to be stupid and do a goof in order for that to happen. So maybe, yeah, let's give it a try.
You know who also gave it a try? A good old college try.
Was it Elliott Hostetter?
It was Elliott Hostetter, production designer, who gave, I have to say, a pretty cool interview, which unfortunately we're done with.
Dare I say, he gave his production design on the film Eddington even more than just the old college try.
Yeah?
He went to college.
He got more knowledge?
And gave it the old college try, and he got more knowledge, and then he went and did this.
But then he went to Jupiter and managed not to get stupider. Yeah, thank you so much to Elliott and his team for, setting the whole thing up, making this interview happen. And Trent, we can't quite tease what our next episode's going to be, because the interview for ideally our next episode hasn't happened yet. But as we stated in the intro, we did record an interview. So we could give a little tease, like a pre-tease of who that is, if you want to.
A pre-tease of what just happened, or a pre-tease of what hasn't happened, but what's coming out next week?
The former.
Nah, I don't want to reveal it.
No?
I think it's cool to say that, like, it's a non-filmmaker who we interviewed. This is basically the coolest person I think we could have possibly talked to, and it's one of
Wow.
my personal podcasting heroes. And
Sure.
we run a podcast, and you're listening to a podcast right now.
Fair enough. We won't tell you who it is right now, but I guess in like a month and a half, when you look at the big picture, you'll know who it was.
Yeah, it's gonna be a couple weeks, guys.
Yeah. And some crazy stuff is going to happen in the next few weeks for me.
In your personal life or with the podcast?
I guess just my personal life. I'm moving. That's the crazy thing. So my interviews will no longer be taking place from my parents' basement.
Parth, I hope it has good Wi-Fi.
We just had the Wi-Fi call and we're having it installed next week. Isn't that crazy? You become an adult and you suddenly have to deal with that sort of stuff.
But Parth, that's exciting for you. Go see Eddington on as big a screen as possible.
And even though things are changing for me, for you, the listener, there's certain things that are immutable. The episodes, they'll be out on Sundays. They'll be out on any podcasting platform that you choose. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Pandora, etc. Trent, if they want to stay updated, where should they go?
Instagram or Twitter.
Yeah, those two. They're the main ones. Let's be real. There's other ones you can use, but let's be real.
So the episodes, they come out on 5 a.m. at 5 a.m. on Sundays.
So get ready. At 4:45, I want you to make sure that you're up on the day of the Lord.
Do some push-ups.
Yeah, just get hyped up.
Go outside, taste the morning air, have a cup of coffee, have a cup of tea, splash some cold water in your face, then take a hot shower.
Do all of these things.
Then eat
as we were saying.
Then eat a full pancake breakfast, and then break out your phone because the episode's out. It's 5.
I think we're going a little insane.
I feel insane. But the other movie we're covering next week, knock on wood, you can also see in theaters now. So just go see all the movies in the theaters now. We can't say which one, but it's one of the relevant good ones. So just like go cover your bases.
And just see all of them. Support the theaters, guys. Come on.
Support the theaters. Support us.
Give us some cash.
Oh, support us.
My Venmo is Parth-Marathe. Okay? Just send us $1 or $2. What's it going to harm you?
My Venmo's just to be safe. My Venmo's Trent-Algar. Let me know. Let me know.
Should we set up a craft services Venmo so that people can support the fund?
No.
Yeah, I'd rather use your money for my own personal sake.
But instead of giving us money, here's what would be just as good, if not better. A 5-star review. And
it's true.
Worse, slightly worse than that, a 4-star review.
But totally acceptable at this point.
We would accept all the same.
I think it's time we wrap it up.
Parth's done. Parth doesn't want to be the friend he tells about a podcast anymore.
It's true. All right. We'll see you next week, guys. Thanks for tuning in.
Bye, Parth. Bye, world.
Lonely. Trent is so lonely.
He's on call her daddy.